Christmas had always been my father's favorite holiday. He insisted everyone sit at the same long oak table, no matter how complicated the year had been. He believed one meal could repair almost anything. That year, I wasn't so sure. The company we'd built over the past 18 years had become one of the largest engineering firms in the region. People liked to call it my father's business because his name was on the original paperwork. I never corrected them. He had started a small workshop decades earlier, but the company people recognize today. The technology, the clients, the acquisitions, the international offices had grown from ideas I spent nearly 2 decades turning into reality. I never needed applause. I only wanted honesty. Dinner began normally enough. My mother passed dishes around. My nieces laughed over dessert before anyone had even finished the main course. Christmas music drifted softly through the house. Then my brother stood. He lifted his wine glass with a smile that seemed rehearsed. "I've been waiting to share some exciting family news," he announced. Dad finally decided who should lead the company. He transferred everything to me. "Looks like I'll be running the $80 million business from now on." Several relatives applauded. Someone congratulated him. Another joked that I'd finally be able to relax. I looked toward my father. He wasn't smiling. He stared into his plate. My brother wasn't finished. "I know some people thought they deserved it," he said while glancing at me, but Dad knew who the real successor was. The room grew strangely quiet. I picked up my whiskey, took a slow sip, and placed the glass back on the table. Then I looked directly at my father. "Should I reveal the truth now?" I asked calmly. "Or do you want to?" No one moved. For several long seconds, all anyone could hear was the ticking clock in the hallway. My father finally looked up, but the words never came. Instead, the family attorney, who had accepted my father's invitation to Christmas because he'd been helping finalize year-end documents, quietly cleared his throat. "I believe," he said carefully, "everyone here deserves accurate information." Every conversation stopped. He opened the leather folder resting beside his chair. "What your father transferred this week were his voting rights as chairman. That is not the same as ownership." My brother frowned. "I don't understand." The attorney looked at him with genuine sympathy. "The operating company was restructured 3 years ago. Several faces turned toward me. The intellectual property, core technology, and licensing agreements were separated into a holding company." He paused. "The founder and controlling shareholder of that holding company is your brother." Silence, real silence, not shock, recognition. The attorney continued gently. "Without those assets, the operating company cannot manufacture, license, or sell its products. The restructuring was approved by the board years ago." My brother looked at my father. "You never told me." Dad rubbed both hands across his face. I kept thinking I'd explain it later. Later had finally arrived. No one spoke for what felt like an entire minute. I remembered the nights sleeping on office couches while everyone else celebrated holidays. I remembered missing birthdays because investors needed answers before sunrise. I remembered choosing not to argue whenever people assumed Dad deserved all the credit, not because I was weak, because I believed family mattered more than recognition. Maybe that had been my mistake. My brother wasn't a villain. He had worked at the company. He cared about it, but he'd mistaken a private conversation with Dad for the whole story. He'd celebrated before understanding what had actually happened. Eventually, he looked at me. "So, you knew?" "I helped create the structure," I answered. "Dad approved it because investors required the technology to be protected independently. You let everyone think." "I let everyone think what they wanted." The difference mattered. One was deception, the other was restraint. Dad finally found his voice. "I thought keeping everything quiet would avoid competition between you two." "It didn't," I replied softly. "It only replaced honesty with assumptions." He nodded without defending himself. For the first time in years, he looked less like the head of a company and more like an aging father, realizing that avoiding difficult conversations had created the very conflict he feared. Christmas dinner never recovered. Some relatives quietly returned to eating, others slipped into uncomfortable conversations about anything, except business. The attorney closed his folder. Nothing dramatic happened, no one stormed out, no one celebrated. When dessert was served, my brother walked over while everyone else was distracted. "I'm embarrassed," he admitted. "I know, I shouldn't have stood up." "No." Another long silence settled between us. "I thought Dad had chosen me over you." I looked toward the dining room, where my father sat alone for a moment staring at the lights on the Christmas tree. "I don't think he was trying to choose either of us," I said. "I think he spent years trying to postpone a conversation that couldn't be postponed forever." Before I left that night, my father stopped me near the front door. "I owe you an apology. You probably owe both of us one." His eyes filled with quiet regret. "I wanted peace, I know. But peace built on secrets doesn't stay peaceful." Outside, snow had begun to fall. The house behind me still glowed with Christmas lights, looking whole from the street. Inside, nothing had been destroyed, but something hidden had finally been brought into the open. Oddly, that felt more valuable than winning. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't leaving as the forgotten son. I was simply leaving as myself, and that was enough.